Hey everybody, this is Perch, and a nice mail here that I wanted to kind of talk about. It less asks a question and more just kind of tees up a good conversation. So basically, it says, "Hello Perch, I'm a silent fan, and I enjoy every video you make every day you make them." That's a that's a commitment, my friend. Anyway, I've been watching for over a year. I'm 47, comic book fan for 40 years. That we're very similar there. You have changed my opinions with good information and new perspectives. Oh, that's nice. I just want to thank you for labeling. God, I can't talk today. Labeling the behavior of hiring writers based on race and gender to match their characters as racist behavior. I don't think that's as easy as you made it sound. I think it took some measure of courage. Thanks for everything you do, and I'm already missing your reduction in video output even before it's happened. I'll just go back to your archives. Great work, sir, and I would buy the beer if I ever got the chance. No, sir, I would buy the beer. We will fight over it. You know what? In reading, first of all, thank you. I appreciate it. I don't think it's a courageous stand. I think it's a common sense stand, and I understand that common sense isn't as common as it used to be. But I think that part of getting things back onto a normal track is that we start dealing with common sense items as common sense, and they're nothing special. It's just this makes sense. But I will say I was wrong. So based on what you wrote here, I have to expand actually what I said earlier, and I think this is referring to an earlier video where talking about do people basically why is it that comic companies will sometimes say, well, we've got this black character, we need to have a black writer writing this black character. This goes beyond race, of course. It goes to gender, it goes to sexuality, it goes to all different things. And so it's not racist. I think that the behavior of saying only this race can write this race is a racist statement. I think that is, but I think that it's bigger than that because the same thing is true. If you've got a woman writer, you shouldn't assume that that woman writer is going to only write women. Or if you have a female character, you've got to have a female writer writing that character. That's absurd. And I say it selfishly as well. I liked Ann Nesenti's run on Daredevil. I liked Louise Simonson's run on X Factor, among many things, by the way. Um, do I want Marvel to show up one day and go, well, sorry, Ann, you're both a woman and you're not blind, so Daredevil, we've got to get somebody else. Sorry, can't be you anymore. Oh, Louise Simonson. Sorry. Well, we kind of did the math, and there's four guys on this team and one woman on the team, and you're a woman, and you're greater than 1/5 woman. So therefore, we're going to have to, you could join as part of a 5-person writing team who's doing X. I mean, come on, this is absurd, and it would rob us of a lot of really great stories that people have written. I'll tell you right now, if Christopher Priest was put on Captain America, that would be excellent in my book. I think he's a good writer. I think he understands sensibilities. I think Priest would do a good job writing that character the way he writes, the kind of I'm not sure the chapter based way he writes in comics. I think would fit Captain America really well. It would kind of split the difference between some of the bigger sci-fi elements that we've seen maybe more recently, kind of the Brubaker run. Kind of he would do similar things. I would love to see Priest on Captain America. Captain America is white. Priest is not white. Should he be excluded? Of course not. And if you framed it that way, if you said, "Oh, I'm sorry, Priest, you can't write the white characters," everybody would immediately call that racist. Immediately, like there would be no question, no hesitation. And here's the thing: they would be right. That would be a correct statement to make. So it's really no different the other direction. If we have Black Panther and we say, "Oh, sorry, I don't know, pick let's say James Tynion. Why not? We'll go something completely different. Sorry, James Tynion, you can't write Black Panther." Marvel somehow snags James Tynion, Substack falls through, who knows? But Tynion's now available, and somebody says, Tynion goes, I'd like to write Black Panther. Like, sorry, you're white. Uh, that would also be racist. It would be stupid. Whatever ist you want to call it, racist, sexist, phobist, whatever you happen to call it, the common denominator here is dumb. And it's dumb from the standpoint of we would be robbed some good stories. Steve Orlando, should he not be allowed to write heterosexual characters? Of course not. Just suggesting that is ridiculous. I think if you're going to write a character where the race, gender, sexuality, whatever happens to be, is a part of the story, then I absolutely do believe it's incumbent for the writer to do the work, to have to go in and research what's going on, understand what's going on. But frankly, I would want this for anything. If you're taking, say, well, so case in point, I've lived in the Seattle area for a long time, not for much longer apparently, but anyway, for a long time I've lived in the Seattle area, and whenever Seattle shows up in a comic, it's all it 99 times out of 100 it's written by somebody who clearly has never been to Seattle, has no idea what's going on, looked into I mean, who knows, who was I god I want to say Kieran Gillen, but I'm almost positive that's not the case. I don't want to attribute this stupidity to him, but there was a writer who was given an interview, and they were talking about the fact that they had seen Seattle on a show by Anthony Bourdain, and how great Anthony Bourdain was for understanding the communities in which the characters go. So whenever research needs to be done for a comic, they go to Anthony Bourdain as the source, which is absolutely stupid. Or I'll use another word. It's retarded. Sorry, you can't say that anymore. But anyway, that is a terrible, terrible decision, and the comics always feel more hollow, more dumb. Wherever, if you're writing a Captain America story in Washington D.C., you need to have been to Washington D.C. or at least figured out a way to really get into what that area is going to be like, if the area is going to play a role in the story. If you're writing a comic with a gay character, you need to be able to write that character authentically. Writing the character authentically does not mean you're gay. It means you've done the necessary work, talked to the right people, studied the right things, whatever it happens to be, in order to write an authentic experience. Whether it's whatever. If you're writing Black Widow, and Kelly Thompson's writing Black Widow, last time I checked, Kelly Thompson did not spend an extended period of her life in Russia, and yet she feels comfortable writing Russian characters and writing Russian culture and writing backstory. Why is this? Is she a fake? Should be taken off the book? Well, no, of course not. She's actually having a pretty good run on that book. I'm not the biggest Kelly Thompson fan, and yet I can say she's having a pretty good run on that book. So, of course, you need to figure out a way to research. I don't know what Kelly Thompson does in order to research Russia, but speaking as somebody who doesn't live in Russia, it doesn't read as though it's cringy, weird, not in the right area. I don't think this is a brave stance. I don't think it's a courageous stance. I think it's a common sense stance, and I think that it's sad that comics have tricked themselves into believing that, well, we've got to line up the race, gender, sexuality, whatever it happens to be, for this comic in order for it to be sold as authentic. All that tells me is that the company doing the selling, the publisher, doesn't have confidence in the authenticity of what they're doing. So they're trying to augment or prop it up by saying, yeah, but look, we got a Mexican writer here about this story with a Mexican in it. See, you can't criticize us now because we found ourselves a Mexican. That's terrible, right? If you're going to write a story about a Native American character, if you're going to write Echo, for example, and you need somebody who understands kind of a Native American experience. And that very well may be a Native American writer. No doubt about it. But it's not a requirement. The requirement is somebody who understands the content of the story they're doing, not the skin color, not the demographic state of the writer. It should be about the intelligence of the writer. It should be around the experience of the writer. Can they actually pull it off? I think it, but again, why do they do this? Because the publisher is looking to prop up the authenticity with something that has nothing to do with the comic. And I'll take it one step further. I think in a lot of cases, the publishers are not reading the comics at all. To clarify what I'm saying there, yes, I'm sure the editor is reading it. I'm sure the assistant editor is reading it. I'm sure obviously the writer is writing it, the artist is drawing it, so they're aware. But when it goes up further than that, are they? On Twitter, CB Cebulski talked about having this massive stack of comics that he's behind on to read. And he was referring to his own company, to Marvel, and presumably others. But in it, he talked about, I've been traveling around a lot. I haven't been able to keep up with the comics we're making. Tom Brevoort has said similar things in the past. Joe Quesada has never really commented one way or another, but I would love to do a quiz show right now where you put up the leaders of Marvel and you just rolled out trivia questions and say, could you identify the story that you're currently telling in your comics? Chances are no. So if the leaders, and by the way, that doesn't even get into the David Gabriels of the world, the marketing folks. I mean, the odds of people reading the comics that they're producing is extremely small. So if you're not reading the comic, you have nothing really to go on. There's no. You got to cover that. What's in between the covers is a blank slate to you, and therefore, what else are you going to market than to say, hey, look, we've got a Native American writer on this book. I mean, you haven't read the comic, you know nothing about it. So of course you're going to go to the surface traits of the creative team. Of course that's going to be appealing to you. If you know you're not actually ever going to read this comic, then hell, like what are you going to promote this thing off of? And that's where you're like, we found a Native American penciler, inker, colorist, letterer, writer, everyone. It's a Native American jam comic. And for the record, cool. I'm sure those people. I'm sure that there's plenty of Native American comic writers who want the work. Like I don't fault them for this thing. I mean I guess I would fault them if they were screaming that nobody else could write it but them. But in general, I mean, good for them. Like get that money, get paid. Good. They're not the ones making these decisions. But for the people who are, I really feel it all comes down to they're not actually reading the comics. They need some quick, easy way to market it. QED, this is what we wind up with. That doesn't seem like a good thing. Anyway, thank you very much for the mail. I think it's a common sense point. I grant you that this is a source of much argument and much thing. Because the one thing I didn't mention here is if you don't do that, if you don't put the demographics lining up with the characters, then there's a group of people out there, be it, hack news reporters who, say they're not journalists, or just randos on Twitter who sit around just trolling, looking for something to bitch about. And in this case, it makes a very easy thing to complain about. Oh, look at this. Did you see that they're doing they're doing a Monica Rambeau comic? That Marvel wouldn't do that because they apparently don't like a lot of their non-white characters. But anyway, just saying. But did you see that there's a Monica Rambeau comic, but it's being written by a white guy? So outrage in 3, 2, 1, go. And that's how they spend their entire day and life. That's all they got. That's all they got going on in their lives is this. And so that's the other factor that props all this stuff up is the peanut gallery who's constantly on the alert for something to draw attention to themselves. Pathetic. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you again for the mail. Like and subscribe, of course, and thanks for listening.